Welcome to the NZ Travel Show, an interactive show where you can ask your NZ travel questions to the experts behind nzpocketguide.com, New Zealand's largest travel guide. The NZ Travel Show will start in exactly 2 minutes. Just the time for you to hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and subscribe if you have not done so yet. nzpocketguide.com has over 3,000 articles covering all aspects of travelling in New Zealand, from a working holiday gap year to tips for a perfect family holiday. The site also features dozens of pre-made itineraries that you can use to plan your ideal trip in New Zealand. It's all available for free at nzpocketguide.com, so check it out. The NZ Travel Show is hosted by Robin, the Operations Manager of South Pacific Pocket Guide, the company behind nzpocketguide.com. The New Zealand Travel Show is also hosted by Laura, a journalist and editor-in-chief of South Pacific Pocket Guide and all its publications, including nzpocketguide.com. We're exactly 1 minute away from the NZ Travel Show. Get yourself comfortable and start asking your NZ travel questions in the chat. Robin and Laura will go over them when the show starts. In 30 seconds, our experts will be live from New Zealand to give you all the practical New Zealand travel tips you need, from the best transport options to the best accommodations and activities to choose for the perfect New Zealand holiday. Live from New Zealand, this is the NZ Travel Show with your travel experts, Robin and Laura.
And good morning, everybody. It is Sunday, the 17th of December, 2023. It's 8 a.m. right here in New Zealand, bright, early and fresh. And this is the NZ Travel Show. How are you feeling, Laura?
I'm feeling amazing. It's
Woo!
the holiday season, which means in New Zealand it's nice and sunny and warm.
Yes,
which
it is.
nice.
It is summer in New Zealand at this time of the year, so therefore we are enjoying a barbecue summer, a sunny summer,
Yeah.
and that brings with it Christmas, or Santa Claus and all the
Santa Claus?
and all the other decoration. I'm not going to acknowledge that. And all the other decoration are all still snowy and everything, so it's a bit of a weird thing, isn't it?
Juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's
some might
odd.
say, yes.
Yeah. Anthony is here saying,
Anthony says, Morena from Rodeo, California. Sorry I haven't been around for the last 2 weeks, but having problems taking care of the guy that I work with, and he's in a cast right
oh
now.
no.
But I'm here now.
Oh, I hope he's okay.
Yeah, glad to see you're back, Anthony.
Yeah.
We have missed you. We have noticed your disappearance over the past couple of weeks, but it looks like you were taking care of more important stuff, so that is totally fine.
All right. So if you guys want to tell us what's your plan for Christmas or any of those kind of things, we'd love to hear how it is happening for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere, because I know that most of you are watching us from the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But yeah, for us it's just barbecue and time outside. It's just
Yeah, we are actually experiencing a Norwegian Christmas this
oh yeah, that's
this
true.
year.
But with a barbecue, which makes no sense whatsoever. But that's
Yeah.
all right. Okay, so we've got a theme this week. Aside from talking about Christmas and jingle bell, jingle all the way, we are going to be talking about driving at night in New Zealand. Let me just punch everything I can find. And to do so, we'll have a bit of a visual. So let's get started with that. As per usual, you can ask us all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. Of course, we're here to answer them for you. Actually, I didn't put the jingle. I need to put a jingle. Exactly, it feels better. Now we officially have a theme of this week.
Yeah.
This week we're going to talk about driving at night in New Zealand. So we all know that The roads in New Zealand are usually thinner than what you used to, a bit narrower. There is a little bit more winding. There is hills. There are mountains. There are mountain passes. There are cliffs on the side.
Less lights. On
Less
the side
lights,
of the road.
yeah. Obviously, in Europe, some countries have lights on pretty much every single road. That's definitely not the case in New Zealand. So today, we're going to be talking about driving in New Zealand at night, and we'll use a visual. We'll use literally a video of us driving at night, and we'll be driving alongside the beautiful Lake Top. Although you'll see none of it because
it's night.
Exactly what Laura just said.
Wow, the authentic experience. Better to drive in the day in New Zealand if you want to see good scenery. Just a first tip right there.
All right, so after this first tip, let's get started with our video. I just need to do a couple of clicks. Okay, so this is a video of us driving at night, and alongside that we'll discuss a few tips, a few things we want you to know when driving in New Zealand at night. So first up, obviously, you want to familiarize yourself with the New Zealand road rules. They may be a little bit different than what you used to back home. There is significantly more roundabouts than what you would experience in the US, for example. We're driving on the left side of the road, so that would be different than if you are in Germany, for example. So do keep that in mind and just familiarize yourself about a couple of road rules that you may want to be aware of. We've got plenty of tips for you on nzpocketguide.com. There's a link in the description of this video where you'll be able to find a lot of information about driving, a lot of driving tips, and obviously some of the most most forgotten road rules.
Or forgettable, maybe.
Yeah, forgettable.
Like, yeah.
Anyway, some of that kind of wording. Some of the most forgettable road rules in New Zealand, just so you are aware of what you're in for.
Yeah. Another tip would be to choose well-lit roads. Usually these are
Good luck with that.
Yeah, these are usually the most developed roads in New Zealand. I'm just thinking there are some roads which, could be gravel roads or like roads to some back country place. Maybe save those sort of trips for the daytime and just sort of choose your nighttime trips going between major cities or, going to more developed areas. It's easier to sort of get your navigation.
But as we see on the video right here, we just passed a road light, and quite often the roads are only lit at the intersection or at the major intersection. So as you just see right here, as we're driving alongside Lake Taupo. We're actually driving State Highway 1, which is one of the major roads in
the main highway.
Yeah, the main highway in the whole country, right? And
Yeah.
there is no light right here. So when we talk about getting well-lit road, we mostly talk about just not going down that gravel road or
Yes.
that very countryside road, because even the state highway in New Zealand, as you see, there is only two-way, one in each direction. Two lanes, one in each direction, and there is no there's no light unless there is a major intersection.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do you have another tip, Laura?
Sure. Next one would be to plan your route in advance. So we have talked about in the past that using Google Maps isn't always, just relying on Google Maps for everything doesn't always work out so well in New Zealand, especially if you're on the South Island. If you're going to some of those maybe a bit obscure tourist attractions or something, then maybe they'll take you not necessarily on the safest route to get somewhere, but they'll take you on the fastest route, or what they think is the fastest route, what Google Maps thinks is the fastest route, which is sometimes just a logging road somewhere that will take you to the side of the attraction and not necessarily to the attraction. So just be aware of, like, when you do use GPS or plan a route, just actually look at the routes, double check that it is taking you where you want to go, double check whether you think it's taking you on proper roads rather than, oh, this seems like a dodgy back road somewhere. So, just assess the route that you have set up on your GPS before actually taking it.
All right, so next up we are talking about weather conditions. So you'll find that in New Zealand the weather can be extremely changing. We talk about that, we talk your ears off about that on this channel. But it is the case, especially at night as well, where you already have more precarious conditions to drive when there are big trucks on the side of the roads and, that are just going at super fast speed, coming out of nowhere because there's so many bands in the road, you barely see them coming from afar.
Yeah.
So if on top of that it's really foggy or it's really rainy or all these kind of things, it may make your drive significantly harder. So maybe just kind of adapt your schedule to the road condition, to the weather conditions, and to the road condition themselves as well, and just plan for a little bit of flexibility of like, okay, well, I'm not going to be driving at night, I'm going to be driving during the day. If it's a beautiful day, you'll enjoy the scenery. If it's a really horrible rainy day, at least you won't have to drive in those conditions at night on top of it. So that may be good.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge that somebody gave us some little hearts just before.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Oh yeah, if you do want to click on buttons like and subscribe, YouTube is happy. Also tell us if you do like those videos when we actually have a video to playing as we talking to you guys. We like to try to give you some variety during the live show. So do let us know if you enjoy that and if we should do it more often.
Yeah. Next tip, when you're driving in New Zealand at night, be sure to watch out for wildlife. There are some nocturnal animals in New Zealand and they love going on the roads at night. They love it. Especially possums. So possums, there's a little bit of a weird relationship with possums in New Zealand. So they are an invasive species. They were brought to New Zealand and turns out they love munching on all the native vegetation. So there's two ways to go about approaching a possum on the road. Some locals will be very keen to run them over because they're a menace, they're a pest to the native wildlife, but then again so are we. If you feel like you want to kill a possum, nobody will stop you in New Zealand if you're wanting to do that. But if you're feeling a bit squeamish, they are still they're a medium-sized animal. Running into them you're going to still feel it on your car. So
yeah, also it's a living being and a living creature.
Yeah, so if you want to slow down and just if you want to go for it and then you're like, oh no, I don't want to, and then you swerve, it could be a whole thing. So maybe, if you're a bit squeamish about it, like I know I am, I think Robin is as well, and you can just sort of slow down, let it get out the way. So that also works hand in hand with like not going as fast as you can on all the roads. Having the time to actually notice things and be able to slow down if there is a hazard on the road, like wildlife. The thing with possums is that they have very reflective eyes, so it's quite easy to see them with your car lights on there. Another nocturnal animal, one that people would be absolutely shocked if you ran over, would be the kiwi bird. So it is. Although definitely not as abundant as possums, they do actually go on the roads in areas, especially in Northland, like the Waipua Forest area. They have been spotted quite frequently on the roads at night. So there may be the odd occasion where you see a kiwi bird again. Be able to slow down for them by not traveling way too fast and having the time to actually see things on the road. Slow down and just let the animals pass. Let them move on with their day. And it would be pretty cool to see one and not squish one.
All right, so that's our first 5 tips. We got 5 more to come right away. Before that, just a quick reminder to everybody that you can ask us all your questions about traveling New Zealand as we're doing those shows. We obviously have some stuff to talk about. Today we're talking about driving at night. But if you do have any questions or any comments, go ahead. There is a live chat and we have it live right in front of us, and we'll answer your question as you ask them. All right. So let's go Let's go over another 5. That's better. I just can't speak today.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over another 5 tips for driving in New Zealand at night. And the first thing is, the first one I have for you right now is to use the high beam light wisely. So you will see that the New Zealand roads are pretty dark. Even when there is a small light here and there, you're seeing it on screen right here. It's pretty dark, right? But when you see an incoming vehicle, make sure that you remove your high beam and just put your lights on, and then you put it back on again when the vehicle has passed you. Just making sure that you don't blind other drivers. I don't think it's really a major cause of accident. It's just very annoying for everybody, especially if you have one of those new cars that has those very bright white LED light that just kind of like a Taylor Swift concert to themselves. It is just a little much. So yeah, do be aware to turn it on and off and off as you pass traffic. But again, when driving at night in New Zealand, you won't be bothered by too much traffic anyway. I mean, as you can see, we're passing a few trucks here and there, but most of the time we're not really seeing any traffic. Next up, Laura.
Robin's just dropping a whole bunch of stuff on the floor. So next up is to stay alert on narrow roads. So indeed, there are quite a lot of narrow roads in New Zealand. Like Robin was saying, even the State Highway 1, which is the main highway of New Zealand.
Which is what you're seeing right here again.
Is just one lane per side. So you're not having multiple lanes. You don't have extra wide roads. So yeah, especially at night, obviously when visibility is lower, you will want to stay.
That's an example of me switching the high beam, by the way, just on screen.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, you will want to stay extra alert on those narrow roads. Obviously, when it's winding, especially when it's winding and narrow, although the national speed limit is 100 kilometers per hour, you will want to definitely reduce that when you are going on much narrower or winding roads. The good thing in New Zealand is that a lot of corner turns, they'll have a sort of recommended speed to take them at. They have signs, these big yellow signs with a number and some arrows to indicate which way to turn. And that is a good indication of what your speed should be down to before taking that turn, because otherwise you could be finding yourself flying.
Flying!
Like a kiwi bird.
All right, so next up on the list we have obviously take breaks. So, it's a tip of road safety that you've heard a lot anywhere in the world. That's nothing to do with just New Zealand, but driving at night for extended period of times is extremely tiresome and it will drain you. And therefore, for that reason, you may want to make sure that you're taking regular breaks, that you're not driving if you're too tired, that you're staying sharp. If you stay alert on the road, you're staying alive on the road. And, would like you guys to stay alive on the road. I mean, it sounds like a controversial statement. Everything's controversial on the internet nowadays. But, if you can avoid having an accident because you avoid driving tired as well, just do that. So, yeah, take regular breaks. Although you won't be able to enjoy the beautiful New Zealand sceneries at night, there's still plenty of rest stop on both sides of the road really regularly, where you can stop, stretch your legs, use the camping facilities, like the bench where you can have like your dinner or something like that, and then go on your merry way.
Indeed. Next tip is to use GPS navigation. So we talked about sort of preparing your route, which you might want to do with GPS navigation, because it is just really handy to, they're just so much handier than paper maps. Paper maps are a great backup. We'll get to that soon. But
spoiler for my next tip.
Yeah. But GPS, at the end of the day, they just make things super easy. You know which way you need to turn. It just takes a whole bunch of thinking out of your driving, so you can more focus on the road and not on oh my god, where am I going? So yeah, GPS navigation is really useful. If you are renting a vehicle, you can rent sometimes those sort of those phone holders, but if you know that that's not included in your car rental, I highly recommend bringing one of those sort of window suction cups things for your phone.
Or buying one in a local store. In New Zealand we do have stores like Kmart or the Warehouse, which will have those things for about $10, and will be a good way to avoid renting one for $5 a day.
Yeah, or probably bring one from home that isn't as cheap as $10, because it's probably gonna fall off the windscreen all the time. But that is just essential for a road trip in New Zealand. And yeah, that bright light on your phone will probably keep you awake. Although they do have dark mode, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But yeah, GPS navigation, it's great invention. I love it.
Nice. Well, piggybacking on what Laura spoiled for us, my tip number 10 is to have a backup paper map. So GPS navigation obviously is very handy, and if you do so, I recommend actually downloading a map such as Garmin and downloading an actual map of New Zealand. So that'll cost you a few dollars or a few cents, and that will be vastly superior to what Google Map provides in New Zealand. There is also apps like Maps.me, which will allow you to be able to actually have your GPS offline, which is quite handy compared to what the Google Map will be able to do. So consider those apps. But as a backup, have a paper map just in case you are getting really, really lost, you are out of signal. There are some parts of New Zealand, although we don't recommend you driving those roads at night, which are going to be like off-road, not really off-road, but off the main grid. There will be like dirt road and all that, and it is relatively easy to get lost. So if you have a paper map as a backup, when you don't have any connections or anything like that, it would be a really good idea. So that's 10 tips. That's 10 tips in total. That's 5 more. 5 and 5 equals 10. We have 10 more coming right up.
And a free maths lesson.
The sass. Okay, here we go with 10 more tips to drive in New Zealand at night. Laura, get us started with tip number 11.
All right. Make sure that you drive slowly through towns. So you should also do this through the day.
Yeah.
But at night, yeah, especially, but any time of day, you will notice that in New Zealand, all the speed limits do drop down quite low, usually around 50, is it, in towns? 30 or 50?
Wow.
Ooh.
You can tell that Laura doesn't do much of the driving. Yeah, so usually it's 50 in town, depending on some areas which are like more the city center, they will drop down to about 30 kilometers an hour,
Yeah.
Which is often the case.
Yeah, so yes, so just stick to the speed limit, which is very reasonable for going through towns in New Zealand. Although a few locals will still want to speed through towns, we find that quite a lot. They may be, up your bum a lot, which is kind of annoying, but, you just gotta sort of just ignore them, especially when you're like, well, I'm sticking to the speed limit, fool. Just ignore those people and, stick to the speed limit, be safe, and if they are so desperate to get past you, then you can find a safe place to pull over if they're making you nervous and let them pass. But...
And to piggyback on that tip, quite often it's actually quite hard to tell sometimes if you're in town or not, especially at night. There is, sometimes the sign is inside a bush or something, and it's not that easy to find. But if you see habitations, if you see any buildings and everything, nothing stops you in slowing down just to make sure that there is not a drunken person running out of the pub. And then, like as you can see, the State Highway 1 that we're driving on right now is not necessarily, it doesn't look like a major highway, so somebody may want to try to cross the road.
Yeah.
It is not unusual, and at night, well, the visibility is as much as you see on the screen right here, so that can really come out of nowhere.
And even on this drive on the screen, we are passing through about 3 or 4 towns.
Yes.
Although it doesn't really look like it, yeah. we have actually passed through a few towns where the speed limit has dropped.
Yeah. All right, so continuing with the when to be cautious, always be very cautious at intersection. We've found that Kiwis drive a little more recklessly at night, thinking that they're the only one on the road. It's very easy to think that. As you can see on screen, we passed only a handful of vehicles so far, and so with that, not everybody kind of will respect the give way signs, the stop signs, and anything like that when it comes down to intersections. So do be aware and have your foot just above the brake when you're about to approach an intersection. So when you see a light, in the distance, you know that there's probably going to be an intersection. Not all of them have light. You are seeing some of them on screen. But yeah, do be aware of that. Intersections are basically one of the major cause of accidents in New Zealand at night.
All right, next tip. We have touched on this tip a little bit already, but it is avoid night driving in remote areas. So we talked about how it's kind of like if you are going to do night driving in New Zealand, it's usually best to stick to sort of main roads between towns, main highways. They're usually easier to follow at night. And also on top of that, if you are driving in a remote area and maybe something happens, maybe you have your car breaks down or whatever, then basically there's less people around to help, especially at night. So it's just in general, it can just be a bit of a bad idea to drive in remote backcountry roads. at night.
All right, another hazard to keep an eye up for on New Zealand roads at night are cyclists. As you can see, there is not much cycling lanes or any big areas where the cyclists can be. So if somebody is crazy enough to decide to drive a bicycle to cycle at night, which we have seen some people do, they'll be pretty hard to spot and they'll be right in the middle of your road. So do be aware of that. That may happen. It's one of the many hazards that you'll encounter, and we'll actually see some in the video in the next 10 minutes. We'll see some.
All right. A very important road rule in general for New Zealand is to be aware of how one-lane bridges work. So you will find very commonly, especially on the South Island, there are bridges that have just one lane. So which side of the road goes first? So you will have a sign at either end of the bridge which will indicate which side of the road has right of way. So if your arrow is red, then that means you do not have right of way.
No.
You should wait. If there is a car coming from the other side, you should wait for it to cross, get off the bridge, and then once the path is clear and there are no other cars coming from the other side, then you are free to cross the bridge. So yeah, that's especially, you could miss that if it's night as well. So but luckily all sides in New Zealand are nice and reflective.
Yeah.
They kind of designed that way, so I don't see how you could really miss it. But just in case, just be aware of those one-lane bridges and how to use them in New Zealand.
All right, next up on the list, we have being mindful of all the local wildlife crossings. So Laura was talking about the wildlife and, the danger that it can pose. But one thing that happens in New Zealand quite often is that you will have a big diamond-shaped sign, which is usually yellow, with a shape of an animal in black on it. And that will tell you that this is an area of interest for kiwi birds, for pukekos, or for other type of animals. And then that'll tell you that this is kind of the area where you need to be more focused and where you have most chances to see animals. Be aware that a lot of the wildlife in New Zealand is more active at night, especially, for example, kiwi birds. They are nocturnal animals, and so this is when you have the most chances to see them on the road, and therefore to endanger them. So be careful and be watchful.
All right, next tip is to maintain a safe following distance.
Get off my bum!
Yeah, so it seems a bit rich to say this from New Zealand, where I don't think this rule is taught to locals. But just obviously if you are driving a vehicle behind someone else, and if the person in front of you suddenly stops, the closer you are to that person, the less time you have to react to stop as well. So especially at night when you can't see what those hazards are because there is that car in front of you, you will want to make sure that you are a good few cars distance away from the car in front of you. You also don't want to blind the other person with your headlights. The closer you are to the car in front of you, you can obscure their vision by blinding them with your headlights because it's shining right through into their front seat. It's just uncomfortable to drive with somebody right up your bum.
But the opposite is true as well. Like, you may have one broken light, and then therefore you will be looking like a motorcycle, or you will see much less as well. So it's kind of like you need to check both ways. Yeah. I think, yeah.
So yeah, just make sure that if you are approaching a vehicle up ahead, you do maintain a safe distance away from that person. And if they are driving super slow, just wait until there is a passing lane. There's very regular passing lanes in New Zealand where the highway will split into two lanes on either side, which allows for vehicles to pass, slower vehicles. So we generally find that's like the best time to overtake vehicles. So yeah, use those and use them wisely and safely.
There you go. All right, so next up we have drive defensively. Honestly, it's true both at day and at night in New Zealand. And if you're unfamiliar with the concept of driving defensively, it's basically the concept of putting the onus of any kind of accident or error happening on yourself, i.e. anticipate the action of all the other drivers and be prepared for all the unexpected situations. You can't really expect, drivers in New Zealand not to try to pass you in the narrowest of roads just before a bend and a corner and then come back onto your lane at the last possible seconds. This probably will happen when you travel in New Zealand, so be prepared for that. And if somebody's very itchy behind, for example, just kind of slow down, let them pass. Just basically anticipate that the other person on the road is probably not going to be driving in the smartest of ways, so that you avoid any incident.
Okay, one final tip for this
Yeah,
section.
number 20.
Is to be aware of unmarked hazards. So we're talking mostly about things like potholes. There are quite a few potholes,
Yes.
uneven sections of the road in New Zealand, which obviously are a lot harder to spot at night. So, and that's also why we sort of generally recommend to drive a little bit slower at night if you're not sure. Obviously, you're going to be unfamiliar with the roads if you are visiting from overseas. So yeah, because you're not aware of those hazards, you should slow down to the point where you can react to things when you see them. Just a general tip and a good tip.
All right, so more tips to come right in a few minutes. Quickly answering Anthony's question, he says, I know you have McDonald's and Subway, but do you have Taco Bell or Jack in the Box or Burger King's? We do have McDonald's, Subways, Burger King's, Carl's Jr., Taco Bell, only a handful of Taco Bells, and a handful of Carl's Jr. We do not have Jack in the Box in New Zealand.
There's plenty of Burger Kings, though.
There is really a lot of them, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. All right, so as per usual, you guys can continue asking us all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. Otherwise, we'll continue with the theme of the week and talking about the different hazards that you can encounter when driving in New Zealand at night, supported by this beautiful video right here. All right, so let's continue with 10 more tips for you guys. So the next tip that I want to talk about is the fact that there can be a lot of unexpected things happening to you when driving around New Zealand at night on the road. For example, it will happen that in the next 1.5 minutes in this video, we are going to see a house in the middle of the road. No joke, that will happen. So as you drive at night in New Zealand, you realize that there is very little happening on the road. There is very little amount of traffic. So therefore, this is when, the road workers are usually out and doing their job. It's also when some of the major infrastructure projects are trying to make some progress, but it's also when some of the biggest items are transported around New Zealand, and that can include items that will take the entirety of the road. As you can see right now, we're on State Highway 1 and we have a passing lane on the other side, so the double yellow line tells us that we cannot pass where we are, but there is 3 lanes right here, but it shrinks quite often to only 2 lanes. And when that happens, well, a house moving from one city to the other, because yes, that's a thing that we do in New Zealand, we move houses from one city to the other, will take the entire lane. So as you can see, there is a big truck right here that we first the truck is like parking on the side, but we have a big truck right now that is passing with some big bright light that tells us that a big hazard is about to happen. So we are aware of it and trying to find ourselves a good place to stop. Then there's going to be a second truck that's going to tell us I'm literally just right in front, and they often drive in the opposite side of the road. So as you can see, there is a light right now ahead of us, and that is a truck that is driving on the opposite side of the road, forcing us to be able to stop on the side. And so then you're going to see that an entire house is going to be passing across. This is not unusual. It is not an unusual thing happening in New Zealand, and therefore you need to be prepared for that when you drive at night. So yeah, it won't really kind of delay you for hours, right? It's just going to kind of happen, but it is also just something which is pretty weird to just kind of have to give the way to an entire dwelling. Watch out, an entire dwelling is coming and stopping us from driving along. But as you saw as well, like you are very much well aware that it will happen, right? There is a whole system with one first truck, then a second truck, then as you can see, there is a third one that is saying like I'm just ahead of it, so you can't really miss it. Like
No.
it'd be hard to miss and to not have the space for you to stop as well, and that's why you saw the big truck that was ahead of us just before. They also kind of took the first opportunity they could to kind of stop, but so we are seeing my point right here with an entire house, an entire house just right in the middle of the road, and then off we go to to our next tip, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, how could I follow such an event? Nothing seems to matter anymore after seeing that. Okay, well, next tip, learn. Oh, you.
Yeah, no, you can go for that. It doesn't matter.
Learn about the road signs in New Zealand. So
she's flustered. She's flustered about seeing a house on the road.
Yeah, so familiarize yourself with the road signs in New Zealand. Some of the icons might not be familiar to you, so it's all very much available. If you Google New Zealand road signs, you can get a good idea of what each sort of road sign means. And even when
browsing our travel guide online, we have so many photos of sign because we do take photos of sceneries and everything, and so you see a sign on the side.
Yes,
so,
and the link that is in the description below on how to drive in New Zealand. We basically mention those signs or those road rules that are the most different from other countries, so you should definitely have a look at that and familiarize yourself with some of those more nuanced rules of New Zealand. And as I was explaining before, there are often speed signs for turning corners because there are lots of winding roads, so I've already explained what those mean briefly. There are the signs for the one-way bridges as well, so all of those very important to familiarize yourself with.
All right, next up on the list, we have using fog lights when necessary. So it can get really foggy, especially on the southern end of New Zealand when driving at night. So do make sure that you are aware of how to use fog lights and how to drive in the fog and what are the kind of distances you can expect until you see the next hazard coming. It can be quite surprising, and driving in the fog is not, just an innate thing. You've got to kind of read up or do it a couple of times to know about it.
All right, next tip is to stay informed on the road conditions. So before you set off, have a look on the New Zealand Transport Agency's website, and there they have updated information about all the roads in New Zealand, if there are any road closures, if there are any weather warnings for certain roads, all that good stuff. So make sure you have a quick look on there at the road that you're going to be traveling before you set off, because, well, there's no point in risking your life. If it looks like it's going to be a bad night, then it is better to just book an extra night in that hostel or motel or hotel and just keep yourself safe.
Speaking of keeping yourself safe, just have the emergency numbers handy. So there is the 111, which is basically your local emergency number for pretty much everything. But there are some other numbers which are available on the NZTA website, which is a New Zealand Transport Agency website that will help you out.
Next up, make sure that you fuel up before dark. So especially in rural areas, you'll find that there are less and less fuel stations to stop by. Although there are 24-hour gas stations in New Zealand, they tend to be more around the more developed areas. So just as a general rule, it's a good idea to make sure that you do have more than enough fuel to get to your destination.
Next up, make sure that your phone is fully charged or that you have a phone charger and the little adapter that goes inside the cigarette stuff. I think at some point in cars, they should stop doing the cigarette stuff and they should actually just put a USB.
Well, they kind of are doing that.
Do they? Okay. Well, I have to stop getting old cars. This doesn't work. Anyway, so make sure that your phone is well charged or that you have a phone charger just in case of emergency. That may be very handy.
Next up, be wary of drunk drivers.
That is a problem in New Zealand.
They come out at night.
They come out at night and in droves.
Just like the possums and the kiwi birds, drunk drivers are on the roads in New Zealand at night. It is very common for locals to go to their local pub and then drive back straight to their homes.
Especially in rural areas, and it happens really, really often.
So this kind of also relates to Robin's tip about driving defensively. Always assume that other people on the road don't know what they're doing, and they could be drunk drivers, and you just need to be very aware of them.
And so speaking of that, and I did touch about it a little bit earlier in this video, just adjust your attitude when driving to the local driving habits. As I said, you can tell how empty the roads are at night, so it's very easy to feel very comfortable. Like we're arriving into a major town right here, we're arriving basically right now to Topo, right? And so you can see that it's very little amount of traffic, so it's very easy to feel like you have the whole road to yourself, to not respect the giveaway sign, to not respect the stop sign. And so a lot of local drivers will actually act like they got the whole road to themselves. And so for this reason, it may be a good idea to basically drive very, very defensively.
Yes. Okay, next tip is to respect the local speed limits. We have talked about this a lot, but let's say it again. So yeah, there are regular indicators on the road by signs to say what the speed limit is for each area you are visiting. Actually, a handy thing, Robin also talked about maps.me, the app before, and that also tells you what the speed limit is
that's quite
for
handy.
each area that you're driving in. So we find that very useful too. So yeah, you will want to slow down, especially in towns. The speed limits are lower. Although the sort of maximum speed limit in New Zealand, unless you're on one of the highways going into Hamilton and Auckland, they're at 110. But mostly the maximum speed limit is usually 100 kilometers per hour. But whether you want to drive that fast at night on the winding roads of New Zealand, it's usually not fully advised. So yeah, just stick to the speed limits. Also stick to what you're a comfortable speed for you to drive as well. There are passing lanes for people to pass you, so let them pass.
Let them pass. All right, and finally, last tip, tip number 30 is arriving before dark. That's right. If you can make it before dark, first up, you'll enjoy the New Zealand scenery. Second, your drive will be way safer. And third, you'll be well rested for a second day of adventure for the next day of adventure. It makes for easier navigation and a smoother experience, so we strongly recommend driving in New Zealand during the day, not at night. All right, so we thought that this video was something to touch on, as a lot of people tend to want to adventure in the day and drive at night in New Zealand, but you're missing out on a lot of the beautiful scenery. So yeah, maybe we'll do this exact video again, but during the day, just to show you the difference one day. If you found this video useful or interesting, make sure to hit like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment below, kind of interact with the video, so it tells us that it's a useful one that you want us to do more of. And also it tells the YouTube algorithm to give us more than 100 views for a change. If you want more information about traveling in New Zealand, head to nzpocketguide.com, where we have a full travel guide for you, free to use. So yeah, here you go. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Telmo Machado is here. That's been a long time. Wow, that's a blast from the past.
Welcome, Telmo, saying hello, Robin. Hello, Laura. How do you do, my friends?
How do you do?
How do you do? We do excellent.
How do you do? Do you do?
We are, we're loving life as per usual in New Zealand, and loving the summer in New Zealand as well, which it currently is. So yeah, we are all good and happy. How about you, Telmo? Tell us how you are.
Oh, I just realized I haven't changed the video. Let's just change the video as we pass.
Is it?
Yeah, it's about to finish anyway.
Yeah, let's conclude the drive.
Well, that's it. The drive is concluded. The video stops suddenly.
Okay. Well, definitely the most exciting part of that was a house coming at us on the right in the middle of the road. So if you missed that, definitely worth rewinding to see the craziness that happens on the roads at night in New Zealand. Yeah, that's usually when they decide to transport full houses down the road, and yeah, it's just fun to watch. It's just like, wow.
All right, we just passed the last roundabout. A lot of people often ask us about roundabout in New Zealand. I think it's a good time for us to stop the video. We just arrived in at Hopo, so here we go.
Nice.
Ooh, right on time. Look at that. Just right when you become white. How is Christina doing?
Christina says, Kia ora, we have been packing.
That's true. Christina is coming to New Zealand in about 2-3 days, I think. It's coming up soon with the whole family. Are they old enough to pack their own bags though, or are you having to pack for everybody? I know Barry is not. I know you have to pack for him. It's fair. It's okay. But yeah, Monday she's coming. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So Monday for her is in 48 hours. I think. For us it's tomorrow. So yeah. But yeah, That's exciting, isn't it?
Oh my god, I would have been packing days ago.
I know. I was telling her that last time. I don't
Yeah.
think that's okay. She's packing so late. But she's happy with it. But I have strong feelings about her packing schedule.
She says that her offspring are 23 and 21, so they are old enough. I don't know. Those 20-year-olds. I was 21.
I was about to say, where are you going with that, Laura?
No, I'm not going anywhere with that.
Nice. Okay, so we still have a good 10 minutes with you guys answering all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. So feel free to go ahead and ask us questions. We kind of wrapped up our theme of the day, so go nuts with it. What is Telmo saying?
Telmo says, I was entire dedicated to masters, and guess I have concluded and am now a master. I have started a PhD and lots of studies. Happy to see you both.
Oh, it's a master of what?
Well, what are you a master in? And
Yeah.
what are you going to become a doctor in once you get your PhD?
I believe it's Kung Fu. PhD of Kung Fu.
Or master is better for Kung Fu.
No,
You
PhD.
want to be a doctor in something else.
No, PhD in Kung Fu is punch, handle, and destroy.
Oh,
There you go.
Wow, that was a great comeback. I like that.
What's Christina saying?
Christina says, I have to have lists well before, but have to do the laundry before I pack, so we have to wait.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
laundry.
Yeah, it's always the thing when you travel, right? When you have to find like that one time when you're staying in an accommodation for a couple of days where you'd be able to do that laundry. So yeah, you're right. It's better off to do a lot of it prior to leaving for sure.
And Anthony says, well, I'm bringing it there about 10 minutes after, so I'm going to say stay safe, but I'm here till the end.
Oh, that's the catchphrase right here.
Yeah.
So that's the last time we're hearing that sentence this year, Laura.
Oh,
Because that's right, we are not going to do those live shows for the next couple of weeks, just because they are going to be falling on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve for us, and so we want to spend some nice time together. However, we will still do our Patreon shows. So our Patreon shows are exclusive to our Patreon members, and they're basically just a Google Meet where we kind of meet and we all chat together. So we'll still be doing that for the next couple of weeks, but we meet you all back during the public live show on the 7th of January. So yeah, that's the last time Anthony is saying that. That's quite cool. He says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'll say now. Yeah, no problem. And you can
Yeah.
always come to the, you're a Patreon member, right? So you can come to the Patreon
To the meet.
phone call. Yeah, to the Google Meet. That's the word. Astrophysics.
Oh, cool.
That is kind of better than Kung Fu, I think.
Yeah,
think
that's
so.
more badass.
Yeah. MSc now and doctors in 2 years. Master in science, I guess. MSc, I don't know. And then it says, I may have the opportunity to study 1 year in another country, and if so, I will try New Zealand. I would love to meet you.
Yeah.
Oh, New Zealand is going to be a great country for astrophysics. We do
Yes.
have a lot of dark sky reserves. And we also are, so New Zealand is a state associated with other kind of countries, right? So there's a lot of small South Pacific countries which are associated with New Zealand, which, because they're really small countries, that means that New Zealand is providing like currencies and governance and UN representation and all that. And so, for example, the small country of Niue, in which we have Niue Pocket Guide, is actually the world only country which is an entire dark sky reserve. The whole country is a dark sky reserve. Admittedly, it's a very small country of 1,200 inhabitants,
But it's
still,
the world's only dark sky nation.
So that's pretty cool. So, doing a PhD in another country, you may want to pick
Yeah.
something like Niue, and if that's the case, that's a pretty cool place. But yeah, when it comes down to meet, we've met quite a fair amount of our Patreon supporters actually. So yeah, feel free to join us on Patreon when you feel like you're ready, and we may organize something like that. That'd be quite cool. Plus, you get access to so much perks, especially if you want to do a whole year in New Zealand. We'll definitely be able to help you out with a bunch. So yeah, that's quite cool.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, astrophysics is quite cool. I mean, I don't know if astrophysics is the same than astronomy though. Astrophysics is probably more of the
physics.
it's probably more the physics of the universe. Astronomy is probably more the exploration of the universe. I'm
Either
unsure.
way, both interesting.
Yeah, I'm unsure if I got that right. I may need to be corrected by 10 more.
I think
I don't want to
maybe-
assume that I know or not.
Maybe we need to take a course.
Yeah, maybe I should do a PhD in astrophysics and then I'll know after that. How about that?
That's how I learned.
That's all I learned. I got a PhD in things. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's pretty cool to have that many dark sky reserves in New Zealand, though, because it gives us some great opportunity to be able to explore some physics and astronomy. It says so.
Yeah.
It's both of them combined, or is it the exploration or what? Okay, explanation, sir. I need definition. You need to define the terms. As to begin with the definition of the terms.
Here's a
Please.
phone. You can Google it, Robin.
I don't Google things while people are talking to me. It's rude. I'm enabling the conversation.
Conversation stopper. Don't talk. Don't tell me. I will just Google.
Yeah. Don't
I'll ask
say
serious.
don't say another sentence until I've defined all the terms of the sentence you've used. No, I can tell people I'm dumb enough not to know all those, and I need to be told. Guys, a very, very wonderful end of the year for you all, chat friends. Yeah, you're very welcome, my friends,
Yeah.
and we'll see you in 2024. Within this live show, it'd be
We're
fun.
excited for the new year. Robin's getting his holiday deals emails up on the screen as we speak.
I was just moving. I was removing our whatever, our speech, our speech notes,
Yeah. our
tips notes, and then my emails popped up. I'm sorry, Laura.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. She can be grumpy at times. So yeah.
This is the face of someone that's grumpy, honestly.
All right. So everybody, we will wrap up this live show since there's not that much questions. We are gonna jump onto a video call with our Patreon. So yeah, there's a link in the description below if you wanna check that out. And otherwise, we'll see you in 2024. Thank you, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Oh, that's such a great way to end this show.